Yeah,
I've got the closet.
you've got
Yes.
the closet, yeah. I guess it, it has.
Hello, everybody.
That was only because I showed up at that meeting that I got.
Ah.
Well, it's gonna be our
Jobs.
No, it's not.
Okay. So if everybody who's on Zoom can please mute until we're ready for questions, just so we can get through the presentation. I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see the presentation.
We'll give it a few more minutes. It looks like we have 2 more minutes before 6 o'clock, so we'll give everybody the opportunity to log on, okay?
Thought there was a way to mute.
Hello,
Hi, Diane.
how are you?
Good. We're gonna start in like a minute here.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
getting John his buns over here.
Okay.
No, say.
We're gonna mute everybody in a
Hi,
minute.
Carol.
Hi, Monique.
Hello.
Can you hear me? And a
Yes.
Oh, very good.
We're gonna ask everybody in a minute to mute so that we can get through the presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions. I'm just gonna give it 1 more minute to give everybody the opportunity to log on.
John?
You know how to mute people that are not muted? Yeah.
You can change.
It's ready.
Yeah, let me share my screen. here. You can talk. Good.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the quarters deck meeting. We're going to do a quick presentation just to bring everybody up to date on the questions that have come in from all the owners. We will be monitoring the chat. So after we go through our presentation, we're going to look into the chat and see what other questions people had. So let me just, again, welcome everybody, and let me introduce Dawn, who you all know, and she'll go through the presentation.
Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, so the first part is just a breakdown of how your HOAs are. Part of it goes into the operating account, part of it goes for utilities, your interior accounts, and the common reserve. And this is on the website too for how your monthly HOAs are broke down. One of the first questions we had, can I have that paper, please? I didn't realize it was going to block me. Thank you. Did the board seek more than one proposal, and will there be more than one contractor on the project? We have sought numerous proposals. I've had probably 10 different contractors out here, and we've only received 2 quotes. The project is a very big project, and I think it's kind of scaring people off. Ideally, if the project was to be done all at once, we would have more than one contractor. We're still looking into the quotes we have. Ideally, that's what we would do. Questions that came from owners, how much is it to only replace the deck boards with Trex? This quote is actually for the deck boards and the stairs. So it's 365,000 up to 500,000, depending on the quote. If we wanted to add the contractor sanding and painting the railings, it's approximately $32,000 for the whole property. If we wanted them to replace the deck boards, the railings, basically everything, the dividers that are on some of the units, it's 800,000 for the whole property. If we only replace the deck boards with treated lumber and stain, it's 275 to 330,000. But we need to remember that's also every year there's an additional maintenance cost to maintain those. So it's not really the most financially responsible thing to do. Are we doing a loan? What's the interest rate? What's the time frame to pay? This is still being discussed by the board. We did have a possible loan offer before the annual meeting. The board voted no on that loan. So we are looking into new loan options. If we decide to do a loan, it would have to be by a special vote with 67% of all owners' approval. And it would have to be in writing. It couldn't be a vote by email. So it would either have to be by mail or in person. If we're doing an assessment, how much and when would it be paid? I'll start with that question again. That's still being discussed by the board. Janet presented various scenarios to the previous board, and they were not approved. So we are still discussing it. The survey that was sent out, 77 out of 103 shares responded. 63% of those who responded were in favor of an assessment. We just want to also be clear that a vote by owners is not required for an assessment, only for a loan. So we will not be voting on whether or not an assessment happens. That'll be voted on by the board. Should we consider not doing any composite decking and look into remodeling the layout of the decks, like changing staircases, privacy walls, all of that? It is something that we discussed as the board, but it would substantially increase the price of the project, as well as push the project out 3 or 4 years even, because we have to get the town involved, the DEC involved, the county involved. It's a huge process to do any changing of the layout of the decks. Hi, guys. Hi. So those papers are this presentation because you can't see them.
You can look on this.
Some owners are asking, why didn't we spend the money that we spend on interior painting on the decks? As that first slide showed, part of your HOA fee goes into an interior account for each unit. That money has to be spent inside the unit. So we couldn't use that money to spend on decks or docks or anything outside the unit. Another question was, as the original decks have already lasted 30 years, how can we justify the added expense of composite? The current decks we have are a yearly maintenance cost. It's with composite, we're just going to power wash. With wood decks, we have to change them out every couple of years. They have to get stained every couple of years, sanded. It's a lot more maintenance. And as we showed with the quotes, it's really not financially really saving us any money to do, to do the pressure treated. Has a structural engineer come out to inspect the decks? No, an engineer has not come out. However, we've had, like I said, at least 10 contractors out. None have had any concerns with the safety of the decks. And if there is any safety concerns, but there might have been a knock at the door. I don't know. Right. But if there is any safety concerns as they're pulling up boards, they'll let us know when we'll address them.
No.
Yeah. Will our staff be doing the work? No. This is something we considered, but due to time constraints and their other responsibilities, our staff will not do the composite decking. It's not that they aren't capable of doing it, but it would take much, much longer for them to do it versus a company. Plus, with a company, we get a warranty. Can maintenance paint the railings to reduce the cost? Will we be using the existing railings? At this time, the quotes we're getting are to keep the existing railings and to have the contractors paint and stain them or sand and stain. Our staff could do it, but again, it takes them much longer to do things. They have other projects to do. So $30,000 to do the whole property to have a professional do it is worth the time. What materials will be used? It is still being discussed, but we are leaning towards the Track Signature brand. It has a 25-year guarantee. And railings, if we decide in the future to do the railings, we can. We just haven't decided what that material would be. Color. Again, we're still finalizing it, but it would most likely be the same color scheme we already have, which would be in the gray family. Will the quarters be supplying materials? We're looking into two different options. So either the contractor supplying the decking or a company like Curtis where they can deliver to us as needed. We're reviewing pricing to see which would be better for us. Time frame, again, it depends on financing. Right now it's, I'll just read it. If we don't have an assessment or a loan right away, we're going to complete decks within our current finances, which means some done this fall, some done in the spring, some done the following fall, and into the next year if need be. Because we only collect $103,000 a year in the current HOA or assessment you guys pay, we have to work within that budget. Is it possible to do like a top deck over a bottom deck on a unit? For the example, it was unit 23. They said their top deck is worse than their bottom deck. We are going to do the decks that are unsafe first, the ones that are worse first. They're really not unsafe, but you can get splinters and things. But let's say 21 through 25, they have to get done together. We have to shut down the unit for a week. If we did the top deck, we're shutting down for a week. The next month, we're gonna have to shut down for a week to do the bottom. We're just gonna do each unit fully, rather than trying to split them up because you're actually gonna lose more usage of your unit. Can we just paint and stain this year? At this time, now that we're getting into the season, we definitely can't. We wouldn't even be able to do it till the fall. A year and a half ago, my staff sanded and painted, which is actually a stain. It just looks like paint. It didn't work. All of the decks were done and they're all peeling. So it's just not, the longevity of it doesn't work with the solid stain. If the decks aren't being done this year, can we add the carpets? We tried the carpets. The main issue is they're causing safety issues because they're not drying quick enough. So people are slipping because their feet are wet when they're entering their units. So we are removing them. Most of them have been removed. Why are the owners paying the same price? Like, why would unit 5 pay the same price as unit 1? And that is because this is a project that involves the value of the entire property in terms of sales and rentals. Through your monthly HOA fee, you're paying into the common reserve. And our bylaw states the outside of units are a common reserve. Therefore, it is paid by all owners. So the sliding glass doors, your windows, the outside doors, the carpeting for the decks, those are all common reserve. Everybody pays into the common reserve. Somebody asked if rental lifts, scissor lifts, things like that, are they in the contract? All the contractors we've spoke with don't need that type of equipment, so we don't have like a value of what the machines would be. Will our contract employ a penalty clause for delayed work? These are things we're taking into consideration. When we did the painting contract, we had a clause in there, that if they didn't meet certain deadlines, they didn't get paid. So most likely something like that will happen.
We also had the opposite side of that. If they
Yes.
completed the project on time, they got a bonus because we closed down for what, the whole month
The
of
whole month of March.
March, right? So we didn't want to close April too. So we gave them an incentive to finish the project on time.
Would we do a surety bond or a letter of credit from the bank for the contractors? It's something we'll consider when we look at contractors and contracts. We're not against it. We just, something we'll consider. How long will it take to get approval or a vote to be taken by the board? We are actively discussing it. I say we, I don't get a vote. They are actively discussing it, and working as fast as possible to come to a resolution. And then the last one. So very recently, the board did vote to immediately do 21 through 25, the parking side. That actually is a safety issue. We are doing that in tracks. The quote came in at 14,000 for that part of the property. They're keeping the same railings, but their landing and entries are actually dangerous, so they just need to get done.
Is that from rotted wood? What's with?
It's
The step
Yeah.
going into
23 and 22.
Yeah, it's
So
very high and dangerous. Right after I got cleared from PT, after breaking my wrist and having a plate put in, I was rushing into a board meeting. The step is unusually high. I tripped and landed right back on the same arm, and thank God didn't break my wrist again.
And the
So-
reason that happened is the pavement, that's a cement wall there. The pavement and the wall have over the last 35 years moved. And some of the decking is coming off. There is a couple supports that have to get fixed. It's just,
And I
it's old.
was made aware too, one of our owners uses,
Yeah,
like a little
step
one
stool.
step stool to go onto the step to get onto the main landing, and I just can't have that. So
The other thing on 21, did you make an accommodation to come up over that drain so people aren't stepping out and going down into the gully and twisting their ankles?
So that actually is something we would have to have an engineer out, the DEC, the park commission and the county.
Well, that's to change the drain. Would you need it to have it? come
To
over the
add
drain?
anything to change the current layout in any shape, way or form, yeah. It has to involve all that.
So is that gonna be done? Because that's
No.
just as dangerous as tripping up on that. I tell people that's
Yeah.
ours, and I tell everybody, go to the left and walk way out because they're gonna roll and fall into that hole.
It is not. However, I do have a structural engineer coming out to look at the other side by 21 where that drain is. So I will talk to him and see if we can do something with the drain, because that's not even a functional drain. If you notice, there's no water in it ever.
Well,
So I mean, it drains,
when
but
you
there's
come
no,
out my door, when you come out the door.
Right,
to the
to the right,
That drain
yeah.
is functional.
well, I mean, it's it does drain. I'm just saying the other one is like if you look at the other drains on the property, there's a constant flow of water. We may be able to adjust. I will talk to the engineer, but regarding the decking, no. It's just, it would be a huge process. There's nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions? We can unmute people.
Yeah.
You can raise your hands by using the option down below that you have a question. You could also type it in the chat. Does anybody have questions?
I have a question. This is Bob. If we haven't had a structural engineer determine that the underpinnings on the deck either do or do not require replacement, aren't we leaving ourselves open for said contractor to come back and say, oh, unit number, whatever, the joists and the support posts are deteriorated. and now we have to replace them. I mean, shouldn't we enter into this project knowing that we've done due diligence and we're not leaving ourselves open to added costs? I mean, it just makes sense to me to know that the basic foundation and the underpinnings on the decks are indeed in good shape and will accept the new decking.
So.
That's a good,
Right,
that's a good,
good question.
yes.
So the contractors that have been out have been underneath these decks. They have been even in the crawl spaces of the ones that you don't look like you can get in. There's not been any, they have not found any issues. So pulling up a deck board really shouldn't
I think
find
he's
any more
talking about,
issues.
is he talking about the posts on the deck? I
But
don't,
same thing, they've been able to observe those. They're not hidden. I
Well,
also, go ahead, Mike.
I just want to make a little correction there, that the contractors have measured the joist underneath and found that some of them are 24 inches on center versus 16, and have put into their bid those additional joists in order to support the trucks. The one deck that they have a concern on is Unit 1, because it's built on the ground and not off of the ground like the others are. So these are things that they've taken into consideration, and except for the base of Unit 1, they have built in additional supports and bracing.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome, Bob.
Yes, well, I come from a construction background, and I basically want to say that normally you would have contractors bid all on the same stuff, not on whether they can find something or know something, or have a contractor say, unit number 7, 6, 14, and 2 need this and this. Not everybody's bidding on the same thing. With this amount of extended work that has to be done, I recommend an engineer come along, look at everything, develop a specification, then have general contractors bid accordingly. Otherwise, you could be wide open, and extras all over the place, and it'll drive everybody crazy. You don't know how much, you won't know how much you're spending.
We could definitely consider that.
I will say, like the engineer that I do have coming out to look at 21, it was almost 7 months booking out to get him to come.
What is their fee?
I don't even know what he's gonna charge.
Do you know how much an engineer would charge us for looking at all the decks? Like
No, but there's liability concerns if you don't have it. Plus, this size of a project, I bet you, I would say somewhere between maybe 15 to 20.
Oh, I'd say less than that.
Less than that. So even if you budgeted 12 to 15, budgeted that, and then what they're actually going to be in charge of inspecting what has to be done, and they're going to dictate what has to be done. Now your general contractors are competitively bidding, not just anybody can have a lower bid than actually. That's very common.
Right, and I will say, not even just specific to the deck quotes, the board doesn't just look and pick the contractor with the lowest bid. And we do make sure the quotes we're getting are apples to apples, so we are requesting the same thing.
We just need to know what the apples are. I think what he's pointing out is, you know, we did a walkthrough on a house, and there was things I would never have known that had to be in there. It's what you don't know that always gets you, you know?
Right.
that's true.
We have some questions in the chat here. Chris wrote, how will the board decide when to shut down for the deck construction? At this point, we're way far away from deciding that. So, you know, when we look at the fall, it would probably be my hope if we started, say we started in the fall of 2025. We wouldn't want it to do it where we have fall foliage. So we would want it maybe Columbus Day and later. Because Lake George, for some reason, I've been coming up here, like I said, since I was 4. For some reason, there's an invisible date, Columbus Day. The boats come out of the water for some reason, even if it's really hot outside. So I would assume we would wait until after, say, Columbus Day weekend when, so we can still get all the rentals, the rentals that we get for the fall foliage.
And also, we aren't planning on doing a full shutdown like we did the
Right.
painting. We're talking about doing, for example, unit 1 this fall. And then, we're not talking about doing all the decks. We're talking 1 or 2 a
Will you be
season.
doing the decks in the mansion?
No, these decks have already been composite. 18, our staff did completely repair. There is a couple, they've been on the decks just as long, so there are a couple places to be repaired.
Yeah.
But they won't be redone.
Here in 19, there's uneven boards.
Right, that's what I mean, those will be repaired.
Those are gonna be repaired. And what about painting like the wall?
Yes, our staff can do
They
that.
can do that, yeah.
That's something simple that doesn't take that.
Okay.
So, sorry, I just wanted to get the chat. Okay, so somebody wanted to see the first slide again. So the breakdown of the HOA fees. Again, if you have a quarter share, and we'll show the slide, but I'll also tell you the operating amount, $250 of your $450 go towards the operating account. $47.50 goes to the utilities. $40 go to your interior fund, which helps pay for your painting. And $112.50 go to the common reserve for the quarter share. And the fifth share is up on your screen. Operating, $203, utilities, $39, interior, $32, and common, $86. I'm going to take a question from the room, and then we'll get back to the chat.
I just wanted to mention my unit, Don, as you know, the issue with the railing. I mean, it's very loose. 17 is like one of the highest.
It should not be loose anymore.
No, but
so that's been repaired. But
it's been repaired, but with only partial wood. Like the board didn't go across the entire railing on either side, like on the short side or the long side.
no,
And it's warped too. So that's a concern.
So
there, because it's
when-
very high
yes.
off the ground.
that whole building is my nemesis. When it comes to these contractors, if there is a safety issue, like with the railings, we 100% will have the contractors fix it.
Yeah.
Same thing if it's bowing because whatever, it was too tight or whatever happened, we will make sure it's fixed appropriately. And all the contracts that we have seen put a little bit of leeway in each quote. That whole building is a mess. But yes, I will have Eric look at it again too.
Let me get the chat back. Okay, so Agnes wrote, I would like to see composite railings and also the removal of the flower boxes.
We are not removing the flower boxes.
Where are they?
Like the ones that are on 21 through 25. Actually, we would like to add more flower boxes on the property.
We had an owner just write, I think the flower boxes add a lot to the units. With them, composite railings would be great, but they add a lot to the project costs, and the current rails are in good structural shape, which the contractors have told us those railings are very strong.
Another person said flowers look great. Thank you. What is the proposed assessment to get the decks done in composite?
I could tell you, we've been running different assessment scenarios and different ideas through the board. We've run everything from an additional $1,500 assessment to an additional, I think the next $2,600, $2,500 scenario on top of the 550 that you do every 6 months, right? So we're looking into different scenarios. The board, if you looked at the minutes on our website, the last meeting, we did approve a $100 increase to the monthly HOA, which will go all to the capital fund. The capital fund right now stands at $170,000 approximately. So that capital fund is going to be used for numerous projects, as Dawn showed you in the previous slide. If you, I don't know, if, we have to do the North Dock, right? That North Dock is going to fall in the water. So we have to do that, right? And we know that the other dock, we paid what, close to $280,000. So we know we have to do that. We have the decking costs, which is ranging for if we do every single deck,
400 to 800,000 depending.
So we really need to increase our capital fund. And so part of the way we're going to do that.
So Janet said, that we raised, or they voted to raise the HOA fee. That won't start till January.
January, yeah.
Also, the assessment or the capital fund does not specifically only pay for the decks.
Right.
Retaining walls have to get fixed both around the property, in the pool, the dock, siding. Somebody was trying to talk.
What was the increase in the,
Right now, it's been voted $100 a month increase starting in January to your HOA fee.
January 26th, obviously. Picking up the,
I have a question about the capital fund.
yes.
So this increase, we have one capital fund that was supposed to be over 3 years ago, according to the way we bought it. It was a 5-year capital fund. It got extended by just randomly extended without any particular things being put on it that said, we're extending it because we're doing it's saving for the roof, or we're extending it because it's being paid for the driveway. Now you're adding another one, which we don't know when that first one's ending. Now you're adding another one that also seems to be randomly saying it's for this and this and this.
It's not random though, right? Because we just said to you, the cost of the decks are going to be anywhere between really to do every single deck between $450,000 to $800,000.
I got it.
We have a dock, right? That's collapsing. That's going to probably
be. We don't need it. What I'm saying is, my point is that when we're making these capital improvement funds, there should be a certain dollar amount going to, all right, right now we're talking about docks and decks. That roof is up there. I don't know how old that roof is. There's a lot of other things, and we need to have, I think, specifically planned, just like you have written out here, $20 goes to this, $40 goes to that. And I don't see that.
Right. And I think maybe I'm wrong, but I think the reason that is because things are coming up now as like an emergency. We need to do it.
Right.
There wasn't any savings. So right now we're trying to fund the debt. So I can't say 10,000 a year is going to go to this because we don't. So part of the raising the HOA fee, the assessment, is to start building it up so that we can take the budget and say 10,000 goes to this, whatever. So right now, we don't have any extra to put towards something.
But so no matter what that number is, what you come up with, 1,500, 1,600, some part of it should start to be putting in a separate account. So we're not starting from zero on every project on this property.
The accounting firm could even do it in an allocation of, okay, the life expectancy of the decks is going to be this. Right. It's going to cost this amount of money to fix them. They all have to be done within 4 years. That dollar amount divided by 100 owners. You do the math, that money goes in the account. It don't get touched for anything other than that. That is where so many things have been done, and there's no finger pointing here, like the hot tub area and all that. Just money gets spent, and I just know that I used to manage I was on a board down in Florida. The state of Florida mandates accounts, and money has to go in there. And they did the life expectancy of the roof. They divide it by 30, and so much has to. That money doesn't get touched. It's illegal to touch that money.
Right. And I think what I'm saying is we agree with you. We just don't even have that money to do that. The assessment for the 1,500 or 2,000, whatever, was not approved.
By who?
So by the board.
By the board.
Oh.
So
that means it can't be spent then.
Right. We really don't have any money saved up to to put towards different things. We have 170,000.
That's called an assessment, one shot, everybody divided up, pay it. Have the board vote on that. That's the way it's done, not just collect a bunch of money and then do this because we only do this so much because we only have so much money. It turns out the mess that we're in right.
Guys, I don't know, can you hear him?
Yes.
Yes, Janet.
Oh, okay, okay.
I do want to just clarify a point before we move on from this. Hi, everyone. It's Monique Cardio. So at the last board meeting, it was my understanding that in lieu of an assessment, we were increasing the HOA by $100 to go specifically for the decks. Now, I'm understanding
Specifically to the capital.
Capital fund and the, yes.
Okay, because that's what I meant. I'm sorry. But then I just heard someone say it's going to increase our HOA fee. So that's why I wanted clarification.
Yes.
So
It is, but the $100 increase, the board voted, everybody voted to put that $100 towards the capital fund because of the capital projects that everybody here is mentioning, the docks, the decks, the retaining wall, the siding in the future.
right. So the clarification is that it is not increasing our maintenance to go to 550. It's increasing the capital fund to go to 650.
No.
So then I'm confused.
It's gonna increase our HOA fee for quarter share owners from $450 to $550 a month. That additional $1,200, if you take the $100 times 12 months, is gonna go towards the capital fund for the future capital expenditures, one of which 67% of the owners, Dawn told us, want the decks done.
Yeah.
We need money to do that.
Right. So why isn't it going to the capital fund instead of the maintenance? That's my question. Because I saw the breakdown.
Excuse me, Monique, it is going to that. It's just the way we're collecting it is through the monthly fee.
But why would you do that? Because the breakdown on the website says that our HOA fee goes to certain allotments, utility, common reserves, interior. So if you're now putting $100 into the maintenance instead of directly into a capital fund, that doesn't make sense.
Where you break down the
Line
operating accounts, the common reserves, the interior reserves, and this section in the.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Are you guys clear on that now?
What she's saying is probably to put everyone to put the money into the capital fund directly.
right.
Instead of-
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, well, it is. The common fund go into the capital fund.
Yes.
The common fund goes into the capital fund. So the money in the common fund is the
No,
capital.
No, separate, it's separate, it'll be separate,
But it,
Common reserve and
It's
capital is different. It
separate.
doesn't matter if somebody sends in a check for $100 per month that says capital assessment, or they send in the $100 extra a month in their HOA. Karen will physically take the money and allocate it to the capital.
thank you.
But
Yeah,
that is very messy, Dawn. That doesn't make sense. When I pay my capital fund fee, I know that money is earmarked, as people have just asked, whether money is earmarked specifically for capital expenses. Now we're saying it is no longer earmarked specifically for our capital expense. It is now going into our HOA fee, which covers 5 different pocket areas. At any given time, that money can then be reallocated, let's say for utilities or something else. That is the way in which we've specified and broken it out, even though our intention right now says, no, we're going to take this new money and allocate it now to capital fund. Why aren't we, the question is just increasing the capital fund fee by that $100? That's just what I want to know.
I think that's what the intention is. Instead of saying to people, you have to come up with $1,100 twice a year, we tried to make it easier for people to pay it over 12 months.
Exactly.
Well,
Thank you,
Can't you
Mike.
just make it that way and say, you can pay it over 12 months? You can pay this $1,100 over 12 months, just add the additional 100 to your thing instead of rolling it into the same amount. That you need to keep the line items separate. I think Monique is 100% right.
It is gonna be separate. When Karen gets that maintenance, the HOA fee, we literally allocate the money to the separate accounts. It's
Just like,
just
Janet,
like.
just like on the first slide that you put up today,
Right.
where $450, and then you divide it, a certain amount goes into the operating account, certain goes into the common reserve, something goes into the interior reserves, something goes into the utilities. There's now another line that says
Yes.
capital fund, and that money, that $100 will go into that capital fund.
Exactly. And that is very easy to do.
It is actually harder for Karen to say, oh, this owner wants to pay monthly. It's also hard for us to budget because we don't know how much money we're gonna have to count in January, February, March, April, because we don't know who's gonna pay what when.
Okay, so my question would then be, do our bylaws, I think our bylaws specify what this breakdown is. I'm not quite sure, so I don't want to misspeak. But Mike, maybe you would know. Do our bylaws specify these certain categories of expenses that are made up of HOA fees? And if they do, how could we then, without amending the bylaws, now add a new category for capital expenses? My apologies, capital fund expenses to this breakdown?
It's really
that's
not
what
doing that. You're doing the same thing we have done. We're just trying to make it easier for people to pay that on a monthly basis. There's nothing here different than what the bylaws allow us to do. And I think we're spending a lot of time on this.
Right.
Let's move on to something else.
All right, we have a question from somebody here in the room.
Yes.
Well, it's not another question. It's just there's just another way of doing it. We all are ownerships in a beautiful piece of property and things have to be done. In other areas that I've owned places, assessments are a real thing. You develop a price for something, you divide up what has to be paid, and it's you either pay it over 2 for the year, you just don't add it into something. It confuses things. When you see that dollar amount on a spreadsheet, now money can start to be spent. Paid once a year or half of it twice a year, not dribble in $100 at a time. It's a nice thing to do for people that maybe can't afford it or like to spread it out. But the reality is, you got a beautiful place here that's got to be kept up for everyone, not just for you.
And you know, personally, I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for the board on this one. I agree with you. Okay. I tried to get assessments through. And this was our way because we still want to keep the quarters affordable for everybody. We have some owners that have 4 shares, 3 shares, 2 shares. And we're trying to make it, you know, not just those people, but everybody. We're trying to keep it affordable.
But that is their choice.
Yes.
Their choice.
That's their choice.
We have 1 share, they have 1 share. Most people have a share, and people that have 3 shares should know they need to have 3 times that amount of money than everybody else.
Yeah, I'm saying.
The only comment is that a higher HOA fee sometimes is a deterrent for new owners.
It actually is not. We have the lowest HOA fee in Lake George for all condos. Well, we are actually, our HOA fee is actually kind of ridiculously low.
Yeah. And to be honest, I
Apples to apples though, for the week of the month versus HOA fees for somebody that's 30 days in the place? Is it apples to apples?
If you, like, we
We're
went,
talking about-
when I was showing them homes to purchase that had HOA fees, we're talking $4,000 a month for the whole month. If you take that and divide it by 4 for a week, it's averaging about $1,000 a month for an HOA for the type of property we have. We actually are quite low.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't deter it.
want to see if there's more questions in the chat. Oh,
I just have a quick, I just started here, so I'm a little confused about Unit 5. There's $5,000 allocated for interior And apparently the other owners had to be unanimously approved. And I guess everybody else is approving it, the other three, I assume. So they're gonna go ahead with. I'm just
No, for the flooring, you mean?
pouring in the carpet. There's.
That had to be unanimous. That had to be all four.
That's what I said.
But unit 5 is a little different. You guys actually had a lot of money in your account. So the board said there was 3 units that had a lot of money in their interior.
Okay.
We're not charging you additional like we did the other
Yeah,
owners.
I just wonder how that came about. That came out of the general fund at some point.
Right,
Five
your
million.
HOA, every month, part of that has always gone into the interior.
Okay,
Your unit just has been lucky and has not needed major repairs,
yeah.
so it is just stacked up. You put it on me.
Well, he's brought up a good point. Ours wasn't unanimous. 3 people said yes, 1 person said no, so ours just sits there now. We can't do it. I don't understand why it wasn't majority
Right.
rule or.
Because we can't force an owner to pay. The board, now moving forward with flooring, the board can say, this is the assessment for flooring, everybody has to pay it. And that's what would have to happen.
We didn't want it to be unfair to the owners that are paying, right? So say you by yourself are willing to pay, say to have all the flooring done, right? Well, that's not fair to you that 3 owners in that unit have the ability to enjoy that new flooring and that new carpeting and not pay for it. That is absolutely not fair to you. And I think at that point, the old board really felt that was the case, because I felt the same way, right? Like my unit happens to be in agreement on everything, right? Because we want new stuff. So we're not in that situation, but we really felt for owners, you know, if 2 owners wanted to do it, again, it's not fair for you guys to pay and then the other owners get the benefit of
No,
that.
I think all 4 have to pay, because when you join an HOA, you're all stuck with the same.
So,
Right.
I want
Right.
us to stick with it,
Yeah,
but
let's-
I will talk to you about
Yeah.
it. We are still, the board is still.
Yeah,
working
because
on
we
it.
have 15
Oh, we
minutes.
don't.
Yeah, so let's see.
Can existing decks be stained until they're, at least until repaired? It's very hard to do that right now because we are in season. Literally, I have 1 unit to book this week. That's it, we're full. So we will try, but it is hard when the unit is already being used. I also want to say the boards that were taken up and replaced last year, you can't paint them right away or stain them. They had to sit for a year. If taking up gray carpeting, how about adding inexpensive indoor-outdoor carpeting? The carpeting that we purchased was marine carpeting. It was meant for boats. It was not supposed to, everything we were promised about that carpeting didn't work out. It is outdoor carpeting. So it didn't work.
I think paying appropriate. Yes, I agree. Kathy Allen, I totally agree with you. We need to be more proactive with our reserves, and we're making progress. The progress is slow, but we are making progress.
This is already tough. We already answered those.
The resort, there's nothing. Yes, the resort right now, rentals are down. Dawn showed that at the annual meeting, rentals for the entire area are down. So think about it, 27.5% of your rental income goes to the quarters, right? To pay all our expenses and everything, right? Well, rentals are down. So our reserves are hurting and we're trying to fix that. I also showed the board that we weren't keeping up with the rate of inflation over the years, but we also had some major emergencies. You know, Mike will tell you this, John will tell you this, the mansion, hundreds of thousands of dollars, right, to fix that drainage issue. So we've had some emergencies that had to be fixed. We couldn't let the hot tub downstairs destroy the entire mansion with mold. So, you know, a little bit of bad luck, or maybe a lot of bad luck. You know, also a prior property manager stealing money. So yes, we know we need to work on reserves, and we're trying to do that. And so I wholeheartedly agree with that. And we might have to do more to get the reserves to where we need them.
Somebody said if we rent more, owners likely wouldn't resist an increase. We aren't losing rents because of decks, as people who rent don't know about the condition of the dock and decks. How can we rent more and raise more income? Okay, so we actually have had rentals tell us they are not coming back because of the condition of the decks, because they got paint chips on their fee. And I'm not saying it's hundreds of people, but that is a concern. Return guests is an issue. People are going to talk to people, so they do know the conditions of our property. To get more rentals, it is not an us problem. Like, we aren't the only ones that are down in rentals. Americade was down 29% of occupancy this year. Lakefront and T Island didn't even open till June 1st this year. It's not just us, guys. I'm trying everything with marketing. If anybody has ideas, I'm open to it. Honestly, we asked on the survey if we could reduce the rentals, let the office rent. The board has voted that down. So I am keeping up with the minimums for August. It is,
That's not an entirely true statement. That in the discussion on the board with you, Dawn, is that if an owner wants to take a short-term rental, they can do that.
right, but what I asked on the survey is gonna be everybody. Like, if the majority of owners said yes, can we do that? I explained to the board and to the owners at the annual meeting why I can't do it individually for 103 owners. I was told at the board meeting it's not an all or nothing. So June 1st, I reduced July rentals. July 1st, I will reduce August rentals. Until then, August stays at a 7-night minimum. Unless the owner specifically says it. We've read those.
What is this?
They're saying the HOA fees currently $1,800. That is true for the year. But what I'm saying is that there's equivalent properties.
$1,800 a month.
Sorry? I didn't hear you, Mike.
But they're not $1,800 a month, though.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Everyone who owns and has to buck up for these repairs, it stinks, but it's the way it is. Not a lot of people want to rent for a week. It's too much. It's going to get worse as the years go by. Lots of people agree. Is there any more questions?
If we lose repeat renters due to cosmetics decks, we should offer a discounted rate and keep the renter.
So as it stands, let's say today a renter goes for next year, I already give them a discount. If they're going to book for a full week while they're here, I already lower the rent, 8, 10%, whatever it is. So we already do give discounts. But I also don't really like giving discounts to complainers, because they're just going to come next year and find something else to complain about. And like I said, it's not like we're losing hundreds of renters. I'm saying there have been a few that have said, I'm not coming back. Nothing's been done.
One owner wrote, why would you not rent a partial week? Renting for 2 days and getting paid is better than getting nothing.
And there are many of you that have agreed to lower your rentals.
Right.
Or go for shorter terms.
Yes. Can you provide owners with the policy for rental discounts? Yes, Dawn can do that.
Yeah, I can talk to you about that.
Yeah, or we can even post it on the.
There isn't really a written policy for discounts.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of, the computer system automatically does discounts within 2 weeks of arrival. It does it by how many openings we have. If somebody is really close to booking, but the price is a little much. If it's $4,000, I'm going to say, how about $3,800? Like, there isn't really a set policy. It's get it rented, especially if it's 2 or 3 weeks before it's coming. It's not really a set thing.
Sorry. We got another, but better to rent than leave it unit empty. Agreed. If renting for less than a full week, policy now?
It is not a policy.
No.
And it's not that, yes, owners, please tell me if you want to reduce your minimums. The computer system is the issue, guys. It's very hard for a computer to understand there's 103 owners. If all owners of unit 1 said yes for all 4 weeks, perfect, great. The computer understands that. If 3 out of those 4 weeks said yes, and that one didn't, the computer doesn't understand it. So that's why I asked for a policy to just let the office rent it for as much as they can, because it's a computer system. I have worked in this field for 25 years. It doesn't matter what booking system we get. Fractional ownership is confusing to a computer. It's because I would have to put 1A, 1B, and on the website, you would see your unit listed as 1A, 1B. Then we have to explain to our renter, it's whole unit 1. Don't worry about the A. It's confusing to a computer. That's why I asked for a policy to do it all or nothing. But please, as an owner, if you would like to reduce your minimums, please tell me, and we are trying our best to do it through the computer.
To keep this on time, is there any additional questions that you want to put in the chat regarding the decks? Also, Dawn has samples here of the Trex colors, where the board is looking into the colors for, like we said, units 21 to 25 will be done. Let me rephrase that, the front decks leading out to the parking lot where it's a safety issue are going to be done quickly. So we're just trying to decide on the color. The color scheme, though, as Dawn said, has to go with the color scheme of the building. So, because we're not, you got to at least stick to that. So, but are there any more deck questions?
How long
We've
will it
got
take?
one more deck
How
question.
long will it take to get the money needed for the decks with $100 per month increase?
It's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. We have, to be honest, we have $170,000 now in our capital fund. We have, we can play the game of moving from common to capital if we have to. But still, it's going to be something, if we are just going to use the capital fund and just do $100 increase, it's going to be over seasons. So probably a fall, a spring, a fall, a spring, and maybe even another fall and spring, depending on the prices that we get. Because as we continue to weigh inflation, tariffs, I have no clue what tariffs are going to do, right on.
And our contractors that we have spoke to have said the pricing they gave, the $399 for the whole property, that's because they can buy everything in bulk, have all the supplies. If we're gonna start doing it individual units, the price is gonna go up.
Right.
But it's all about how do we pay for this, and that's what the board is trying to discuss between loans, assessments, raising the HOA, however we do it, how do we pay for it without hurting all the others?
I think the thing that would really actually help the board is if everybody, I'm going to put this on Dawn, write to Dawn, right? Because we did the survey very quickly at the annual meeting of, what's a top priority for you? Are you willing to pay for the decks kind of thing, So write to us and say to us, if we had to do an assessment, what are you willing to pay extra a year to get this done quickly? Think about your own finances. I mean, I know it's going to be a lot to calculate, but we'll be able to calculate a median and an average price and just for information purposes, right?
Janet, put one other thing, and I don't know if you talked about this because I had a hard time getting on early with the Zoom.
Yeah.
But the board is also considering asking the owners to approve a loan.
Yes.
And using the money that we collect through the capital fund over a period of time to pay off that loan so that we could get the project done quicker and still stay within these parameters. So I don't want people to go away thinking that the only option is to wait 2 or 3 years to get the done. We're looking for another one. It's just that if we go that option, then we need 67% of the owners to approve us taking that loan.
Right.
But I'll clarify, if we take out a loan, there won't be a special assessment to pay it off. It'll come out of that extra $100 a month.
It depends. It depends on the principal of the loan that we need to get. It'll depend on the interest rate. We had a loan that we ended up not even putting to a vote to the owners. because the board could not agree on it. So that is off the table. So we are working on getting terms of a new loan to see what those terms are. And again, we'll need money. The last loan, I could tell you we needed $10,000 a month to pay it off in 3 years at 6.25%, which was 50 basis points below prime over 3 years. And that was,
But that's the cost
What
of
was
doing business.
confusing about that, Janet, is that the bank wasn't clear about how much money we had to put in escrow and how much we would be able to draw from that. So
Right.
it wasn't that clear.
yeah, yeah. So
But
they
you're also looking at commercial lending.
Yes.
But I do have a question. Has the board considered foregoing the carpet and tile replacement or delaying it and using the allocated funds to offset the cost of the deck project?
That's an interior fund.
Hold on, that's it. Wait, hold on, that's not quite true. We asked owners of each unit to put the money towards it.
Right.
Those owners currently know the there's only 8 units that said yes. So they do know that now we are talking about decks. I think I've spoke to most of those units. They know they're gonna be assessed more money later. We are not forcing any owner to do a unit with the flooring.
Right.
So I don't want to
I think
confuse
that
the
was
two.
Bob's question. I think Bob's question was, can you take the money out of the interior reserve to pay for the decks? And the answer is, by the way the bylaws are set up, no.
No.
Okay, now, just a comment. I think early on, someone said that we had 2 contractors involved in giving an overall price for the deck project. Now,
Correct.
okay, so it ranges from 365 to 500,000.
Correct.
So the mean middle of the road cost is somewhere between 15 and 20,000 per deck. Now, our deck isn't 100 square feet. And we're gonna pay $150 plus a square foot for decking, because we've said that the underpinnings, the foundations, the joists are in good shape. It's the surface decking that needs to be replaced. The price range seems outrageous for less than 100 square feet of decking that I'm gonna be assessed $15,000, somewhere in that range, for the smallest deck.
Right, but as we discussed, as an owner, according to the bylaws, the outside of the units are a common reserve expense. They are owned by all the owners. So your specific deck, you don't own that. Everybody owns it. So this is a capital improvement for the entire property. But also the increase to your HOA, whether we call it that or we call it an assessment, is not only to pay for the decks, it is to pay for all capital projects going forward.
New dock, siding on the building, new roofs.
New sliding doors. Also, if let's say we did unit 1, but we don't do unit 5. Well, the people staying in unit 5 are gonna be like, why isn't my deck look as good as unit 1? Oh, because the owners didn't want to pay for it. It involves the whole property. Everything we do outside of the capital fund it improves the whole property. It improves sales, rentals, everything. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Right, exactly. People who didn't have the boat, we use the capital funds to pay for the deck or dock. take the loan and get it done, get the decks done, you can offer option.
Happy Father's Day to
Yes.
all the
Happy
dads.
Father's
Thank
Day.
you for that.
Um,
If we did not get to your question tonight,
oh, wait,
feel-
there's 3 more.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't
we're
see those.
finding 3 more here.
Engineering evaluation is necessary. We had to pay an assessment when we did the kitchen and bathrooms, isn't the same, the decks need to be done. Please share the bids with all owners for review.
Right.
Regarding sharing the bids with all owners, yes, we have 2 estimates. The one estimate is no longer valid. They do not want to work with us because we took too long. The other contractor, it's not that I don't want to share the contract or the estimate. Really, I don't know which ones to share. He has sent 5 or 6. He's actually making more, adjusting with us. I'm reaching out to other contractors. Once a contractor has been chosen by the board, I feel like we could, fully share the contract and
Right.
stuff. But right now, they're just basically estimates. We haven't signed anything. We haven't agreed to anything. If anybody knows a contractor that may be
Yeah.
interested,
Gentleman there.
You have a specification that a contractor can bid on a deck. If we know somebody
mhm.
that wants a bid on them,
So what
do you
we,
have a piece of paper saying what has to be done?
yes, but what I really would like is for them to come here, walk around with me so I can explain the scope. But yes, I do have
That's all well and good. I
That's it.
understand all of that. But if we know contract.
Mhm.
If we can show them the paperwork first, what you're looking for, to make sure they are interested before you waste
They
everything.
need to be assured that
Before
they're
they
all
waste
bidding on
everybody's
the
time.
exact same
Yeah.
thing.
Yes,
Right.
and
Yes,
we can turn you on to contract.
That would be
great.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That is half our problem, not being able to get the contractors.
Or they want to do a 30-day quote and nothing against the board at all. It takes us much, much longer than 30 days to vote on projects this big.
Partly because right now, right, if we have a quote for $400,000 and they say we can start next month, not that we would start during the season, we don't have $400,000 to pay them. So that's where our hang up is right now. So,
So
well,
this said, thanks to the board, not an easy job, but we counting you, get the decks.
well, listen, happy Father's Day to everybody. If you have any additional questions, please just email Dawn. She will get the questions to the board. The board has a board meeting on June 17th around the corner. Dawn will be posting the Zoom link if you want to come for the first 15-20 minutes of the board for any kind of public comment. You're more than welcome to do that. I know one owner has come, I think 3 times in the 2 years, so I appreciate that specific owner coming and voicing her opinion. It does help. Also, owners have been reaching out directly to me. So feel free to contact me and I will bring the question to the board and we'll get back to you as soon as I can. But if nobody has any other questions, have a great night, everybody, and a wonderful weekend.
I have one more question. If you could email that specification to myself and Wayne, we'll get people up here next week for you.
Oh, wow.
Dawn
So
says,
regarding the get people up here next week, please call me. So
Oh, of course.
I can
course.
schedule it with them. I've had
No,
other owners that
no,
just randomly have people. So I just want to make it clear to everybody, please call me.
Oh, of course.
But yes, I
I wouldn't come up
absolutely,
here on the house. I mean, come on.
it is happening.
bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.